Yeah. That's a great surprise.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. We are here, sadly, at the fifth and last of our workshops, but hopefully it will not be the last workshop that we will be providing for you as the COVID situation continues on, but with all the great news we've been having about inoculations, vaccinations, hopefully by this time next year we'll all be back in, and Christmas 2021 will be doing double the number of carol services and Christmas concerts to make up for this year. But in between, we would like to be here for you online, and we'd like to find out from you what you would like us to be doing to support you over the next year. So on the information below this video, you'll find a link to a survey. You may also have received this link in this week's newsletter if you're signed up for our newsletter. Please do fill out that survey. It's an opportunity for you to tell us what went well, what didn't go so well during these workshops, so we can improve, and also for us to get an idea of the kind of things that you would like, so that when we're planning and scheduling things for the upcoming months, we can address that as well. So please do that. If you're not a member, you haven't already signed up for the mailing list, please do sign up so that we can tell you about these future workshops when they happen. And if you've been enjoying learning the Mass in C with us over the last 5 weeks, then there's an opportunity for you to hear us perform this on Beethoven's birthday, December the 16th. I think everybody's singing that concert, aren't they? Everybody in the room? No, not Zoe. No, not everybody in the room, but 3 of us in the room, or 3 of the singers in the room would be joined by 13 others. There'll be a choir of 16 plus an orchestra of about 30. Will be live streaming directly from Blackheath Halls. Unfortunately, we couldn't have an audience there. We couldn't fit in that number of musicians and have an audience, but we will be live streaming it. And you can, find out information about the live stream and how to get a pass for that on Corda app. And whilst you're there, you can also find out about our other performances that are coming up in the next 2 weeks. On Friday the 11th, this coming Friday, we will be performing the Christmas section of Messiah. So it's the first 5 scenes dealing with the prophecy, the Annunciation, and the Nativity of Christ from St. John Smith Square. And if you are in London, you are very welcome to join us. We can have a small audience for that concert. So we'd be delighted if you could join us in person for that concert. But if you can't, we are live streaming that performance, and you'll find, as I say, information in the same place. Then on the 16th of December, I think that's Monday. No, not the 16th, I've already said. 21st of December is our last of the 3 concerts, also from St. John Smith Square, so we can have people join us there live. We will be performing our Christmas Fantasia concerts, which includes the music of Holst, Vaughan Williams, Finzi, and a bunch of carols by some wonderful contemporary composers as well. And Helen will be one of our soloists for that concert, and she will be joined by Mary Bevan and Roderick Williams will round out our soloists for that performance. All details on the core website. Excuse me, I have a little frog this evening, or a cat if I'm French. So now I've lost my track, wasn't I? So I've done the survey, I've done the mailing lists. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's another way you can find out about things that we'll be doing on YouTube. We will also be branching out and for our future workshops and streaming those on Facebook Live as well, because we have heard from people that they like that as an alternative, so we will do that. So, before we go into singing through the Mass, let me just remind you of who's with me tonight. We've got Zoe Brookshaw as soprano, Helen Charlston, mezzo-soprano, Peter Davoren, tenor, William Gaunt, bass, and Peter Foggitt on piano. And there's somebody you've not seen before in all these workshops who has been essential for us being able to come out to you. I would just like to ask Esther Robinson to come forward, please, and join me here. Come right to the front. There we go. So the wonderful Esther, sorry, keeping my distance, has been manning the board and the streaming. So thank you so much for doing that. Wonderful. Okay, Peter, would you like to take us in a warm-up?
Sure, will do. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all well. Because we're singing through the whole Mass, I think I'll be a bit nice to you all and not get you to be overly excited before we sing. We don't want to peak too early. So the first thing I'd like you to do is just to really, really focus on your breathing. You can do this within your own time, but I want you to really think about those lower abdominal muscles working as you breathe in and as you breathe out. We want to keep that engagement. And I'm sure everyone who's done a warm-up so far has always mentioned about, or in the actual sessions themselves, talking about how we support from down there. So I want you to really feel those lower abdominal muscles working when you breathe in. Let's say you're breathing in for 4 beats and breathing out for 4 beats. And we'll do that, say, 3 or 4 times. Okay, so 3, 4, breathe in. And out. And breathe in. And out. We'll do it one more time. Breathe in. And out. Well done, guys. So hopefully you're feeling that. You're feeling nice and relaxed. You're not feeling too tense before we sing through the Mass, and we're really feeling that engagement with our lower abdominal muscles. Now, for this next exercise, which I've done in my warm-ups before, but I'm going to add to it and really think about what Zoe was talking about with the tongue itself. So we're going to do probably on the D flat, mi, me, ma, mo, mu. Now, before we do that, I want you to think about the M at the beginning of each vowel. And really think about where your tongue is. When you do that, so at home, just practice humming that note. You should feel your tongue being nice and relaxed and nice and flat. And that is what we want. And where the tip of the tongue is, you want to keep that in the same position with each vowel. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. You'll also find when you do that, your jaw will be nice and relaxed, which is very handy when you have to sing an hour's worth of music, sometimes at fortissimo, sometimes 3Fs. So keeping everything relaxed is very important. So if I could have a D flat, please, Peter. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. Now it's your turn. 3, 4. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. And we're going to go up a semitone. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. And again. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. And we'll keep going up as long as it's comfortable. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. Really think about your breath in. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. Keep it going, guys. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. Mi, me, ma, mo, mu. Mi, me, ma, mo. Just a few more vowels and bases. Mi, me, ma, mo. 2 more vowels and bases, and then you can stop. Mi, me, mo. Last one, vowels and bases. Mi, me, mo. Sopranos and tenors, 3 more. Mi, me, ma, mo. 2 more. Mi, me, ma, mo. Last one. Mi, me, ma, mo. Well done, guys. What note did we get to there?
E flat.
E flat, wonderful. So we're going to stay on the E flat and we're going to focus on points that Helen and Will have made. It's usually for our altos and basses because they sing the lower notes, but this is really applicable for sopranos and tenors when you're sort of at the lower part of your register. Sopranos and tenors to start, unless we've got some very ambitious mezzos and baritones in our ranks, and we're going to go do, re, mi, si. What we need to do is imagine we're not digging down for those low notes. We are keeping it in the same resonance place that we have at the upper part of the voice. We're never forcing anything out. It's almost contradictory to sort of any sort of walk of life. Like if you were to throw a cricket ball, bowl a cricket ball, the more effort you put in, the faster it goes. With singing, actually, you have to not get the sound out. You have to let the sound out. So it's all very relaxed. So can I have an E flat again, please? Do, re, mi, si. Your turn, guys. Do, re, mi, si. Yeah, we're going to go down a semitone now. Do, re, mi, si. And altos and basses join if you're feeling comfortable now. Get too low for you, sopranos and tenors, then you can stop and leave it to the altos and basses. 3, 4. Do, re, mi, si. 3, 4. Do, re, mi, si. 3, 4. Going for now. 3, 4. We'll do 2 more for the altos and basses because I'm running out of notes. The last one. 3, 4. Guys, what note did we finish on there? Wonderful. We'll stay on a G, and we'll do the exercise I like to do to make sure that we know where our natural tone in the voice is. So when we're going from our nice chest voice up into our head voice, when it's getting to the higher parts of the note. And the best way to lift our soft palate is by, using a noise you usually only hear in the French language, which is and the exercise goes on a G. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, too low for me. But what we're going to do, we're going to gradually go up by semitones. As you get higher, think more French, think more nasal. Most importantly, take that nice deep breath and engage those lower abdominal muscles. G major, please, Peter. 3, 4. Nice deep breath. Keep breathing deep. More French, more nasal. Make sure that draw's nice and relaxed. Two more. And the last one. Brilliant. Is that F sharp? It is. Made up wonderful. Just so altos and basses don't feel left out, not having to, sing those high notes. Let's do the one that really gets the juices flowing. The It's gonna get faster. Two more. Last one, prestissimo. Right, I think we're warmed up.
Oh, I love it. I think we'll have warm-up Wednesdays. Every time you do the French one, Peter, I keep hoping you're going to do the hello, 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 hello. And do the oh.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. You're doing the hello, hello.
Oh, well, yeah, why not?
Okay. So, just had a realization with my friends concerning my friends in Dartington, but I'm sure this will apply to many other choirs that are joining us tonight. I realized that it's a year ago, yesterday, on the 8th, that we sang Dreamer Grantius in Dartington. That's been that long already since we were together to do a performance. So we started rehearsals like most choirs at the beginning of this year. We started to prepare the C Symphony, and of course had to stop that at the beginning of March. So it has been a year already. So that really, I think, puts the year into context. It can only get better from here, can't it, folks? Okay, and it can get better this evening as we will just enjoy singing through the Kyrie. Well, the whole piece, in fact. But before we do, any sort of last thoughts and reminders of each movement as we go through them? Just jump in, friends, if you have anything to say on the Kyrie.
For me, it's whenever there's a descending phrase, it doesn't mean just because it's lower, there's less energy. That's when you tend to get sort of the pitch will sink at moments. So it's just keeping that energy alive, keeping that breath engaged, and that should eradicate that problem.
Yeah. There are a couple of sort of fairly quiet entries for sopranos here, which is, I'm thinking sort of bar 70, around that kind of place, where it's really important to keep the sound spinning, even though it's a bit of a scary moment. Just kind of think of it as loud, but sing it quietly.
And there's a long way to go.
Yes, there's a long way to go. Which fits into what I was going to say, which there is a long way to go. And also, the dynamic markings in this piece need certain levels of interpretation, which obviously we would look into in far more detail if we were able to rehearse this under normal circumstances. But just as a general rule, or not general rule, but general request in this first movement, let's make the fortes full but never forced, and the pianos just enjoy the gentleness of the pianos in the Kyrie here. So basses, think about your vowels. Hopefully you've been practicing just the vowels. Don't let the consonants get in the way. Think of that C as being one solid column of air. And that was it, really. Just let's enjoy this. Let's take, so here's your C. Lovely. Feel free to sing all the solo parts too. Or listen to these wonderful voices singing the solo part. Gloria. Well, first of all, it's a big sing, this one, isn't it? Lots of drama. Lots of energy. I think in this one, although it says FF in brackets, don't ever make it sound harsh, please. That's one of my requests. Make sure that the rhythms never slow. So when we get to, we have all this energy at the beginning, no problem with keeping it going there. But we get to, say, bar 21, where it's suddenly piano, et intera pax. We must make sure that that doesn't slow down as you get quieter. Well, that's the first part. Any other comments on the first section, the allegro section?
Yeah, on the very first word, because I know, Simon, you like to have the vowel on the beat.
Yeah.
So you need to have the G and the L before it, but you can also have the note voiced on the L, can't you? On the you have to, really. You can't. You don't want to slide up to it because it's a really sort of frenetic beginning, and you want to have that energy. It doesn't necessarily need to be loud, but if we have a really clear consonants before the beat and the R is on the beat, I think that helps give us the right energy at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And knowing that that's the vowel you're going to as well.
Yes.
In the breath beforehand. It's really useful.
Okay, so that's the very first note to pay attention to. Then, as I say, don't get behind in the rhythms through this one. Then we go into the quitolis, which is bar 139. So it's a couple of pages later. Sorry, I don't have the other score open, but it's where we get to the 3/4 and the change of key there. Don't get lost in the wonders and beauty of the solo. Be thinking about your rhythm again, which needs to be very accurate and keep us moving there. We talked about emphasis on the notes and where that should be in a previous rehearsal workshop. Anything else?
I mean, I think in these fugal bits like the cum sancta and stuff, you can make a lot of the consonants and give energy in that way rather than volume.
Yes, as long as we don't lose the vowel at the same time.
Sure.
So I mean, I think that we have to be very, very careful. I mean, what Zoe's saying is add the consonant, not
Yes,
not
indeed, yeah.
replace vowel with consonant.
Yeah, I was just going to say pretty much that. Just they drop in on the airstream rather than stopping the sound all the time. But yeah.
And just carrying on from that, on the amen, we usually have to sing quite a lot of notes on the first syllable of that word. Don't forget the vowel you're singing all the time. There's a lot of time where you sort of just go, and the vowel can sort of just get a little bit lazy. So just really keep energising that vowel.
Every note in the new R, isn't it?
It's essentially what Zoe was saying on the quiet note, where you keep the vowel spinning. You can keep the vowel spinning when you're changing notes as well. So just keep that energy in the vowel, really.
Which is appropriate because it's the end of the movement, so we want to make sure we finish the end. The amens, of course, come at the very end of the movement. The other thing I would say is when we get into anything that's sort of fugal-like in its writing. So, for example, the Cum Sancto Spiritu section. Hopefully you have been practicing this on core and listening to the other lines, and just tonight decide that you're going to enjoy the parts around you as much as you're enjoying yours, and see how you can play off the parts that are around you in the fugal type passages. Anything else? If not, I think we should sing this one. And after this one, make a cup of tea. Here's me, I don't have to do anything. Yes, can you have those notes again? Okay. There's a lot in that, isn't there? Yeah, wonderful, fabulous music. And it keeps coming. So, credo, first thing, that energy, haven't we, after that? One of the most difficult things on stage is transitioning, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of energy goes into the next one too, but it's just changing that heartbeat. Of course, in Beethoven's time, still we're still quite a long way until we get to the modern idea of a concert program, which really didn't happen until Leopold Stokowski in the 20th century. Up in that time, of course, Beethoven would have expected to break things up. He was writing this piece at the same time he was writing the fifth and the sixth symphonies. Well, they were the other way around at that time. He hadn't numbered them that way. But those two symphonies that became known as the fifth and sixth. And he did a benefit concert. Was it this year? December of the year? It was close around finishing those. But he did this famous concert in December. And it was absolutely freezing. And they did it on no rehearsal. They had to sit through a 3 or 4 hour concert. Various pieces, but he would break it up. So he did bits of the symphony, and then he did bits from this piece, and then there was a bit from the Fantasia for piano and chorus, and what have you. It was a very, very different approach to music. And of course, the other thing that, see what I'm doing now is I'm allowing all our heart rates to get down. The other thing that would have happened was there would have been applause between movements. And although this is a religious work, it is a cantata mass, so it really was thought of as being something that would be given concert performances, as Beethoven himself directed. So at the end of that movement, he would have thought, they like this, they're going to have lots of applause, so there'll be massive amounts of applause there. And if there was enough, the singers would probably be very nervous. He'd say, okay, we need to do that one again. Because that was not uncommon too, that movements would get performed again. There and then, if they got enough applause. Because otherwise, when were you going to hear it again? You weren't going to buy a CD in the lobby on the way out. And it wasn't... there were a few entrepreneurs around that were preparing chamber versions of music to sell fairly soon afterwards. So anyway, now everybody's got their heart rates down, after me waffling and giving that little history lesson on performance practice. Let's look at the credo. So... the energy still needs to be there. It's allegro con brio, but it doesn't quite have the intensity of the Cum Sanctus Spiritu and the Amens at the end of the previous. So dee da 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 dee da 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 credo. Thank you. That's fine. I thought it was subtle dig on my pitch there. So yes, energy. And other things in this one that people would like to... Oh, this is the... You know what, before we go through this, let's just turn to page 47, the Judicales. That very nutty little syncopated rhythm there. I'm going to see if I can find the right score for you, page number. If anybody else finds it in the other score, do let us know. So letter H in the Novello score. Whilst I'm looking for that, does anybody have any general comments to make about this one?
Never louder than lovely.
Never louder than lovely?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Okay.
Letting the sound out, getting the sound out.
Yeah.
It's always
So pointed to the room. It's all about the rhyme.
Well, I think we were talking before about getting stuck on words, and this is about the same length as the Gloria, but there's a lot more words.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So just be careful about
Well, this is the contract, this one. So so, yeah, there's a lot of contractual detail to get through in the credo. No, that's Messiah.
Please. We were thinking a bit about there's lots of sort of falling large octaves here, aren't there? The sevenths. Mm-hmm. So it's worth reminding, I'm looking at sort of 60 in the alto parts and 64 in the bass part and 58 in the tenor part, and practicing those falls by going up. We were thinking about, weren't we?
Yes.
So it's a really good way to practice those sevenths, is finding the octave above before you fall down. if that's a useful
So that you
reminder
don't
to
fall
everyone.
down. Thank you. So somebody texted in. Thank you very much. It's page 33, G. Let's look at that little syncopated rhythm there. Syncopated rhythm. Page 47 for us, if in these scores. Can I have a G, please? So we'll go right on that. I'll give you 2, 1, 2, 1 into it. Yep. 1,
Oh, sorry.
2, 1. So again. 1, 2, 1. Good. Can we just sing it now incorrectly, placing it exactly on the second beat? Yeah? So this is what we don't want, which is you arrive on the second beat, and then we'll come back and put in the syncopation. So 1, 2, 1. Now you probably think, oh, I like that, because there's no threat, there's no danger. You know exactly where you are. But we've got to have the energy that comes with coming just a little bit earlier. Again. 1, 2, 1. There you go. It's one of those situations where you just have to commit. I feel it's like, I probably never will do a bungee jump, but I feel like this is the closest I will ever get. Because that's the feeling that I have. It's like, if I come in too early, they'll all know, and if I come in too late, they'll all know. Yeah, I'm a bit of a wuss when it comes to heights. There's no way I'm ever doing it. Have you ever done a bungee jump, anybody? No?
Esther!
Esther's done a bungee jump. Oh, of course you have. She lived in Australia. Okay, let's go from the top of the cradle before we start telling other stories of things that we've done off bridges. Full bar in. 1, 2, whoa. Slightly less caffeinated. 1, 2, and
Rock Profeta
Et vitam venturi seculi. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Et vitam venturi seculi.
Amen.
Fabulous. Sanctus. Not a very long one, this one, but words again. Play nu celli, it's quite fast. I'm sure one of the things we'd be talking about in the real world when we're all together, if we do this together, is making sure that the pitch doesn't go down in the first page. Yes, we've got all that area that's unaccompanied, and if it's not supported, it will likely go down. It's also quiet, so we also need more support, not less, because it's quieter. Anything
We were
about
talking
that?
about vowels last
Yeah.
week, weren't we?
Yeah.
And yeah, keeping that sort of flow of sound being on the vowel with the consonants just punctuating it like pegs on a washing line.
Just to add to that, usually in the middle of the word of sanctus, people give up on the vowel that you are singing
Yeah.
when you close onto the sound. Still think of the R vowel. Sanctu. It will help keep it in a nice place, which some teachers call the mask. Keeps the sound vibrant, keeps the sound forward, stops it going flat. I find.
Yeah, I suppose.
Here's the thing. Okay, there's a Peter thing. Come to the microphone. That's why he steps up.
It's worth putting in a plug for a really exciting document which is published by the Vatican on how to sing in Latin, because there are these cowboy choir masters who say take this word is pronounced sanctus, which is nonsense. There are all sorts of dreadful things that you can do that promote quite bad singing and flatness, and sanctus is one of those. The word a brighter vowel is more appropriate, and the Vatican know, because they're the only country in the world that still speak this language. So I think they're allowed to make a decision about this. But there is this wonderful document you can get that shows you how to pronounce absolutely everything. And I find it really helps.
So is it A we're aiming for, or somewhere in between?
Well, it's definitely brighter, it's not R. There's an American priest has published something that says that it's the same vowel as in father, but that obviously is with an American accent rather than an English one.
Father.
So if people say father, then it's sanctus, that's wrong, but fa.
He's my father.
Father.
Can't do that in American
Father.
accent.
But this goes back to the discussion we had a couple of weeks
Depends
ago
where you are in
about
America.
how English, British English has changed over the last 200 years, whereas American English is closer to vowels that we would have had.
There's a funny letter apparently by Frederick the Great, where he, on the subject of Latins of various times and places, sometimes we get caught up in historically informed performance and say, well, we're going to do German Latin circa 1630. And people sit there scratching their heads and stroking their beards and trying to figure out what this means about the pronunciation of the letter C. There's letters from Frederick the Great where he says that actually I would rather listen to my horse sing than listen to someone sing Latin with a German accent. So that really tells you something about the performance of Latin in certain courtly circles.
Right.
That actually there was presumably an attempt at purity that we now, with all our knowledge of various things, attempt to sort of divert ourselves into something that's perhaps more academic and less authentic. Sorry, Will is approaching a microphone.
No, I mean, I'm all for that, because that follows the bel canto technique of keeping everything quite Italian anyway. So, the brighter the vowel, the better.
Peter, could I ask you a favour? Should you send me, if you can find a link to that document, I will post it on the website for people who are interested.
Certainly. I'll find it. It's on a website which rejoices in the amazing name of Corpus Christi Watershed, which is your one-stop shop.
After 9 o'clock?
I mean, some of this stuff is explicit. It's your one-stop shop for all things related to Gregorian chant and Latin.
It's not the book by De Angelis, is it? Different book.
It's just a website. I don't know.
Oh, right.
Okay. Well, we're off onto websites now, so we'll get that link because I think that is definitely worth sharing. They've gone off now. So
Dangerous.
let's sing the Sanctus, shall we? Benedictus. Nobody has anything to say? Or?
Just same as before. Think when you're singing quietly, keep the energy going in the vowels just as much as you would in fortes. The only thing that changes is the dynamic. All the energy in support stays exactly the same.
Yeah. Just a question, actually. I assume you want us to sing the choral bits where there is both solo and choir going.
No.
Oh, I should not have asked you that.
I think a challenge in this one. I think, yes. I think no. We'll sing the solo parts here. You sing the chorus parts there at home. No, it's good. It needed to be decided. And that way you can do the thing I'm going to ask you to do, which is to, listen to what's you're hearing from the solos and respond to that accordingly. Now, we would make decisions as a choir on how we were going to do that, but we're not a choir, we're a bunch of individuals joining together remotely. So you can make your own decisions tonight and just enjoy responding to what you're hearing from the soloist. Okay, can I have the notes, please?
Benedictus, qui venit in nomine Domini, benedictus, qui venit in nomine Domini.
Nicholas, how did you get along? Or you just sat and listened to the solo? And you stay. Any words about the final movement?
It's always, with the final movement, it's keeping that energy, even more energy than you've had in the previous 4 movements. It's always the one that could sort of think, it's last stretch now, we're nearly there.
Yeah.
Nearly time for our end of concert refreshments.
There are lots of
the
time
mind
changes
can wander.
as well, aren't there? Lots of time changes in this one, so
Yeah.
try and stay alert and on the ball.
There's the time changes, there's the pulsing 6-8, which often in choirs will result in not being quite together, just follow the conductor and keep the movement going. The other thing, of course, is, it's a big sing, by this point, with lots of Beethoven drama to it. So at the very beginning, I think it was Zoe, Helen said, pace yourself. Somebody said pace yourself. If you didn't pace yourself, well, you're going to feel it by now.
Good luck.
I had a teacher when I was at school who had a motto that was subdivision is the stuff of life. And I think this is quite good for this movement, because in every key change, the most important thing is to know how the shortest note goes. So keeping those quavers in your head when it's in 12/8, but even so also when it goes into the allegro, keeping that constant kind of tick, 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 tick going on in your head. Your internal metronome, very useful.
Yes, exactly. And the thing that I referred to is the internal rhythm, the thing that holds it together. And, as in advance, we're all thinking about the next tempos against the new tempos. We're sort of finding different ways that we relate tempos. So that subdivision has to happen against, in some cases, the rhythm that you're actually singing, doesn't it? So we might be singing against one rhythm, but thinking, well, actually, there's a 2 against this 3 is how this next relates to it. So you're always thinking that one step ahead. Excellent. Okay. No more final words of wisdom. This is our last movement.
Best of luck, everyone.
Best of luck. Yeah.
See you on the other side.
Yes.
Qui sweet
Lovely. Thank you all for joining us over the last 5 weeks. One of the things that is very weird for us as performers is not having any connection with you guys. And we were talking about this, I don't think we've talked about it, but one of the quartets and I were talking about it. It's not that we need your applause at the end to feel like we've done a good job, but it's it's the opportunity at the end of a performance to have our final connection of performance with our audience is that moment of applause, and we miss it, don't we? A lot. It's odd getting to the end of any sort of a performance and not having that. So anyway, I would like to applaud my colleagues here, but I'm going to start with the wonderful Peter Foggitt, who has a virtuosic harp. And I'm going to ask my fellow singers to clap each other, and I'm going to clap them. They have been absolutely delightful to work with and beautiful to hear, and it's been a wonderful experience. And I think, did you end up enjoying it in the end?
Always.
No, I think we all did. I think we were all a bit nervous before. We'd never done anything like this before, and I've certainly enjoyed it. It's been lovely having all the comments come in and hearing how much you've enjoyed it. So thank you all very much. And thank you out there for joining us over the last 5 weeks. We have a Messiah workshop tomorrow night. Do we? Yes. And we have the final choral Christmas Fantasia workshop on Monday. And just to remind you, please do join us for our performance of Beethoven Mass in C on December the 16th, live streamed. You can find the information on core.app. You know it inside out now, so you can come along, sit back, and hear how these wonderful singers nuance every little phrase that Beethoven has written. So anyway, all left for me to say is thank you again for joining us.